14 strangest things ever discovered. Starting off with number 14, ability to get information from a black hole. Interstellar goes real with this technology. Apparently it's now possible to get quantum information from a black hole, whatever that means. But the great thing about this one is that black holes have often been written about, so science geeks and science fiction geeks alike can geek out over this recent discovery. Apparently Stephen Hawking predicted how this would work in the 1970s, so it's been a long time coming. And now we can celebrate with popcorn and sci-fi and more scientific data. Number 13. Dropper stones. Aliens abound in this strange discovery. In 1938, a group of archaeologists found human skeletons with weirdly large skulls in the mountains between China and Tibet. Stone discs written in an unknown language were taken from their tombs. The guy who was finally able to translate them, or so he claimed, asserted that the bodies were those of aliens, explaining the skull size and the strange language. So next time you need a scapegoat, the aliens did it. After all, they were here at one point or another. Number 12. Horned human skull. You better get thee to a nunnery because Satan exists. All joking aside, this gem of an archaeological find was discovered sometime in the 1880s in Pennsylvania. Aside from the horns, the skeletons discovered looked entirely normal. Nobody can figure out what's up with the horns or that decidedly scary grin, but similar skulls had been unearthed throughout the 19th century. Number 11. Screaming Mummy. A vengeful spirit plays the starring role in this tale. In 1886, Gustave Maspero came across a mummy who wasn't very popular during his lifetime. He was wrapped in sheepskin considered dirty by ancient Egyptians, and his hands and feet were bound. And his jaw was dropped as if he was screaming. Other screaming mummies have been discovered too. Apparently this is a natural phenomenon and the jaw automatically drops if it isn't tied shut, but it does look scary all the same. Number 10. 4,000-year-old song using a modern scale. The Sumerian hymn to Nekal is thousands of years old, and what's distinct about it is that it uses a modern diatonic scale, very similar to the one used today in Western music. Also, detailed performance instructions were provided for voice and harp. The clay tablet the music was written on was discovered in the 1950s, but it has remained untranscribed until 1972. Now there are many performed versions available for listening on the internet. Number 9. The WOW signal. In the 1970s, a volunteer at Sati Radio Observatory recorded a radio signal that qualified as an extraterrestrial radio signal, printed out the data and wrote "WOW" next to the signal. Nobody has seen a second occurrence of it, and it's still a mystery to this day. Number 8. Human-chimpanzee offspring. Humans and chimpanzees share upwards of 90% of genetic material, so it's no surprise that someone was interested in finding out whether they could mate. While it's not been proven that it's possible, something appearing to be a cross between the two was discovered in the Congo. His name is Oliver, and he's so different from other chimpanzees that others have theorized that he's a genetic crossover. Number 7. Easter Island. It's one of the most isolated places in the world, which doesn't explain how these giant stone heads got there. Unlike the question of how Egyptians built the pyramids, we're still mulling over this one. Although nobody's complaining, these stone structures are beautiful and so is the scenery. Number 6. Dog in a jar. Don't be alarmed, the dog wasn't forced into the jar while alive. Ancient Egyptians liked to mummify their pets, but nobody can figure out how they got the dog into the jar. We figured out how to put little ships in jars, but that hasn't helped us much. Number 5. The Bloop. Apart from having an awesome name, the Bloop isn't a big undersea head scratcher. The NOAA discovered a very powerful sound underwater and traced it to the South Pacific Ocean off South America. They claimed it can't be man-made, which has the rest of us wondering, what exactly is this thing? Number 4. Percussive Stonehenge. London's Royal College of Art took a trip out to Stonehenge and started banging on the stones. This might not sound like a good idea, but it actually turned out alright. When the stones were hit, they rang, sounding like bells, drums, and gongs. Apparently it took a lot of trouble to get the stones placed, but if they have musical capabilities, it's no wonder. Coming into our top 3 is tooth vision. Scientists found a way to make a blind man see again using his teeth. This remarkable feat proves how much we still have to learn about the capabilities of the human body. Number 2. Cocaine and tobacco-loving Egyptians. There's evidence that Egyptians were into partying. At least that's what I assumed the cocaine was for. Residue of both substances was found on Egyptian mummies, and what's even weirder is that it's practically impossible for it to be true. Both cocaine and tobacco were only grown in South America, so how could the Egyptians have gotten access to them without traveling there? Strange indeed. Finally, on to number 1. Volcanic wildlife. Apparently, other species aren't nearly as scared of volcanoes as we are. Researchers in Papua New Guinea found 16 types of frogs, a new possum, and a new type of woolly rat. If the volcanoes are this populated, sign me up for the next trip. Volcanoes don't seem so bad if other species have to put up with it